Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of season 2. Today, for Meet the Zor, we are going to be talking about Sylvan learning. As we continue down this path, the idea is to give you guys a glimpse into how our franchisors positioning their brands to be a viable option for those that are looking at getting into franchising, either actively or thinking about it down the line. The amount of human beings that are thinking about this is increasing by the minute. Some are yet to pull the trigger. They're looking for indicators that would point towards this being a safe business environment. But it's up to us to give you guys a glimpse into what brands exist. So John and Charles, thank you for doing this. John, what I would love for you to do is position Sylvan. Obviously, if I'm a novice or I've been hiding under a rock and I don't know what Sylvan is, what is it? And then secondly, the why you, why now? Has that changed at all? Is it still the same? Any position around that to kick us off would be fantastic.
Sure. Sylvan is the premier provider of supplemental education. We don't necessarily replace schools, but we reinforce what children learn in school. We have the greatest breadth of content in our industry, and we have the ability to deliver in-center, in-home, or online. So I think the key thing about Sylvan, though, is our personalized approach, where virtually every child comes in, gets an assessment, gets an individualized learning plan that we deliver to that child to help them improve academically. Nobody really has a program similar to us, and nobody uses technology the way that we do to measure the child's success, to deliver up curriculum that's appropriate and personal to them, and allows the teachers to do what they do best, which is to tutor and teach children and build confidence in that child to make sure that they're there and ready, willing, and able to learn. So we have a proud 40-year history. Our product works. Obviously, we wouldn't be in business for 40 years, and we're all very, very passionate about helping children succeed academically. Why now? I think that everybody's aware of the total uncertain times, in particular in the education marketplace. Most children across the United States and Canada missed over a third of their school year this year. They had online learning. That was obviously very helpful and needed, but every child adapted to that slightly differently. There's some uncertainty going into next school year, whether schools will open, whether it's going to be virtual, whether there'll be slimmed down classes there. So if you're a parent of a child today, you're concerned, you're nervous about how your child is doing academically. Will they be able to keep up? Have they been able to learn all the basics that they need to progress on to the next year? And I think that's where Sylvan really can come in. Our summertime has always been a very busy part of Sylvan's year, but I think this year we're going to find it even more so because of the fact that there's such uncertainty and so much of the school year was missed by most kids. I think the other thing, why now for Sylvan, because of the pandemic, we had to virtually go or basically go almost overnight from delivering predominantly in center to predominantly delivering online. Our investment in technology over the last 10, 15 years allowed us to do that almost seamlessly, to the point where a couple of weeks ago, 100% of our tutoring was done online or virtual. We now have approximately 400, maybe a little over 400 of the 600 or so centers across North America that have been able to reopen safely. So we're in a position now that we can deliver based on what is most convenient and desirable by the parent. We can deliver online, we can deliver in center, and we can actually deliver in home.
John, what I find fascinating is how traditional, mature businesses, when they do the things right, almost become high tech or innovative businesses that really advance. Whether it was COVID or in general in terms of the markets. So there's so many brands out there that'll talk about, hey, we have curriculum or we have training or we have technology. But I think the standout from Sylvan and your team is that you guys actually have all that. So if you could translate, Sylvan has a great product for the students. How does that technology, how does the curriculum, does all that come together to really translate to more success for the franchisees?
Right. So I think there's a number of reasons. I joke there's technology companies in education that are focused almost solely on the technology. We actually view ourselves as an education company that uses technology to enhance the education and to enhance the teacher's ability to deliver tutoring to a child. We're not a newcomer to technology. We've invested for a number of years. We have our proprietary delivery technology, which we call Sylvan Sync, which basically uses that assessment that I talked about previously, uses algorithms to create a learning plan that addresses where a child might be weak and needs improvement. That then gets handed, in my mind, to the teacher, who builds motivation, confidence in the student, and uses that technology to guide a student through that learning plan. Our technology also adapts to the child. So if a child is mastering skills at a faster rate than expected, the curriculum will move on or will slow down if the opposite is happening. So I think our secret is the fact that we have great content / curriculum. We have great teachers, and we have teachers that are trained and able to use that technology. That technology was also the thing that allowed us to migrate to virtual or online so quickly. Most of our competition relies on paper-based materials, which is very hard to convert to a technology platform. Where we were able to take the technology and the curriculum that is delivered using technology and convert it to an online platform, and we continue to make enhancements to that to improve the experience for the child even as we speak today. Our plan was always really to go online. I think COVID or the virus situation just accelerated that. And that was a testament to our people and to our franchisees who adapted so quickly. To me, a franchisee sitting in front of a parent and talking about the advantages of Sylvan, you have to start with the technology. It's something none of our competition really, they don't have technology similar to ours. Children are used to technology. They use it in school, and our technology enhances the experience for the child. I think all creating distinct competitive advantages for our franchisees.
When you think about the value proposition, John, and obviously there's the value proposition back to the parent who's making the decision on behalf of their child, and then to the franchisee, does a time like this elevate that more? Does it almost force it to the center? Because you are stress test. And so the school system is completely stress test right now, and in many cases failing because they didn't have a foundation in place. Does this elevate the value proposition of the brand that even though you had these things in place, it ends up being proof of concept?
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. As I said earlier, it was always in our plans, but it got accelerated, obviously, with the current situation. What's interesting, we really didn't have a chance to stress test it because it got stress tested almost on day one when we went live. The good news with our technology, it had already been tested in our centers. So in a way, it was remote, if you want to think about it that way. So the conversion to online was more on the teacher end than on the student end, and it worked out very, very nicely for us. In fact, it's amazing how many emails and calls I get from franchisees that are so thankful for the fact that we have used technology and we were able to accelerate it and go virtual. really overnight, which I think was the most important. They didn't lose contact with their families. They kept them engaged. And I think that was critical for their business, both in the short term and in the long term. It also exposed our parents to a different side of Sylvan. We do a thing called the VOC, and we've always had a very, very high NPS scores in the high 70s. It's actually gone up into the 80s since we've had to move online, where most of our delivery is. And I think they were so appreciative of the fact, the parents were, that we were able to do that, and that the learning didn't slow down for their child.
John, as a franchise system, especially an established brand like Sylvan, it could be very easy to overlook technology, or to apply technologies that are really superficial just to claim that you have a technology edge. As an organization, as you look back, right, because you didn't just do this yesterday, and whether it's the curriculum development, the technology development, as a leadership team, like, what's the driving force behind developing the technologies, or at least planning toward those advances for the system?
Right. I think what's unique about Sylvan, even if you go way back in time, it has been our investment in staying ahead of the pack. A lot of our competition focuses on just math. We started in reading, but then we migrated to math, to study skills, to writing, to homework support, to test prep, to STEM. Then it was on to the technology. We are a company that has a core value of investing in our future, because we want to stay ahead of the game. We want to stay the preeminent provider of supplemental education. And in my mind, the only way to do that is to stay innovative and constantly invest. We have a deep education team that's constantly looking at our content. And that comes from that belief of staying ahead of the game and delivering a quality product. We measure how well we do with every child and the improvement that they show. We have a third-party evaluation done every year, so that we're not sort of sticking our head in the sand and assuming, or drinking our own Kool-Aid. We want to make sure that our product works, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to keep bringing people back. I think to the point you're making, you could have the greatest technology, but if you're missing all the other components, if your content doesn't work, or isn't appropriate, or the teachers that you have just don't get it, that makes a big difference. It's all about progressing that child, and creating an environment where they want to learn, and then they learn effectively.
I think you've almost had the advantage. Obviously, you've always had a model that facilitates growth for the child. But in today's time, where parents are completely stressed out because a lot of the education has been handed off to them in the home, you're also solving one of their issues, and in another way that may have not been as appreciated in the past. As I think about what you've done as a brand in a moment like this, it's almost, and I don't want to shortcut this, but it's almost the Grubhub situation of education, because within the four walls, a traditional school, that's typically where the education stops. That when you leave the school, there might be homework and stuff, but the teachers don't interact with you once you leave the four walls. In traditional tutoring, the four walls are within the facility, unless it's an at-home tutoring business, but still, it's limited within four walls. You've now extended your reach. You've taken the ability to have the human connection, which is so essential, and paired it with a technology that extended your four walls. And just I'll put the statement on here because we talked with Mike Kelly, and the validation that we're hearing from franchisees is at an all-time high, because you've probably solved those issues too. Do you feel like this is conscious things, or is it just happening because you're doing all the right blocking and tackling as a leadership team, that it's actually having a positive effect in all these different areas?
I think it's really a combined effort among a whole bunch of things, which I'll go into. that I think are so critical and important to our franchisees. And it's a spirit and passion about Sylvan that we were going to help our franchisees through this. I mean, you felt that from almost like from day one, that we were not going to let people get down. We were going to keep them up. We were going to keep them focused, and we were going to give them the tools to be successful. But if you take a look at, I focused, and your questions were a lot around the technology, but the reality is it was many more things that went into it. We have a franchise operations group headed by Susan Valverde, who is a former very successful franchisee within Sylvan, who holds great credibility within the system. Her group of people had been working on significant training and profit improvement plans for this year that we had begun implementing. We were able to accelerate those, in particular the virtual training. In the weird way, we actually got to more people because of using technology and doing things virtually, as opposed to the regional meeting concept that we had tried before, very successfully actually, but you would get groups of people together. We had one virtual call with 500 people from the system on there talking about how we were going to handle this situation. To second, our marketing group, which I think is second to none, and our brand awareness is a testament to that. The changes that they have made basically on the fly to make sure that not only our marketing, but our web pages, the local marketing tools that our franchisees have are all aligned now to make sure that people understand our ability to deliver in-center, in-home, or online. It's critical that your audience know that, especially an audience that may have known you from several years ago where they thought in-center was the only option. That is all changed. To our education group, who have developed a number of new camps that can be delivered virtually and in large group. The reason that's so important in today's world, if you look at Sylvan, many years ago, Nick, to the point you were making, a child might be in a classroom of 30 people, and there might be 4 or 5 of them, because of their learning styles, might not be able to keep up based on the fact that they're not getting the individual attention that they may have needed. And those were sort of the prime candidates to come to Sylvan to get that individual attention. Now we have a situation where the whole classroom is behind. It doesn't matter what your learning style is or where you were prior to this situation. So we've been able to adapt a number of our programs so they can be delivered in large groups this summer, virtually and in center, that addresses what we think is going to be a pretty dramatic need for almost every child to get supplemental education. So it really is a team effort between our technology, our education, our operations, and our marketing groups that have put us in this position. And the reality is that it's not new things. It's accelerated, but it's a demonstration of the support that we give to our franchisees.
I'm glad that Nick brought up Mike Kelly, your franchisee. When we spoke to your franchisees and we had a couple of conversations, video ones, I was blown away by the culture that they adopted and their focus on business building, right? And so you reflect on that, you admire it, and try to, how do you back into that or decode it? And it's so interesting to me as you're speaking, right? Because there could have been a different story. Sylvan hadn't developed technology and curriculum. It would have been a dead brand, but it's not. We're seeing the net result. And I'm not just saying this. Anyone who doubts what I'm saying, just watch the video, right? From core values behind them. I mean, impressive franchisees. And so I'm just saying, how do you recreate that? And I think one of the answers I'm pulling away from this is, if you focus on your customer service delivery and you develop around it and you build the technology and you have that constant improvement, one, you build a competitive edge that grows by the minute, but two, you're also then freeing up the franchisee or the stakeholders to really hone in on culture, hone in on business building, not chasing parents, and service delivery. And so to me, everyone will talk culture. I know Nick and I are big believers, but you need to back it up. And to me, it's funny to call Sylvan a high-tech company. And to me, if I had an outside looking in, I'd say your culture is at least driven or enabled by your technology, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, sure. Look, at the end of the day, if your product doesn't work, people aren't going to come. We know our product works. We're absolutely confident of that. And that's why we get it evaluated by third-party providers. We also have a culture that we have to provide the tools necessary for our franchisees to be successful. And I've talked about the technology, the marketing, the operations support, the education support. And the reason that that's so important is because we want them to focus on customer satisfaction. At the end of the day, if you have happy customers, they're going to keep coming back and they're going to tell people, and more people are going to be coming back into Sylvan. That's why the voice of the customer is so important to us. I joke everywhere I go. I tell people that the first thing I do every single morning is I get the voice of the customer comments from throughout the system. Number one, it juices me up and gets me excited for the day. It makes you feel really good about what we do and the impact that we have on children. But number two, it allows me to reach out, because every morning I'll send 5 to 10 emails to franchisees where I've seen these really positive VOC comments. And that's all geared towards driving a culture of customer satisfaction. That almost everybody that comes into our system has a passion for doing something good for kids. It's really a mission-driven organization. And if you can take that and make sure that it comes through and is reflected in the customer satisfaction, you're going to have a successful business.
John, I would love for you to close with this question, or your answer to this question, and that's optimism. What is it like? How's your optimism now? You've obviously now you've battled through the first stage of what this COVID crisis is. How's your confidence in where business goes from here on out?
All right, so it's funny you asked that question. We have executive team meetings every Tuesday. We had one today, and not this exact topic, but something similar. We worked our buns off, as did our franchisees, to get through that beginning stages of the virus situation. And it's such a heads down, push forward experience that you're not thinking of anything else except for how are we going to get through the next day, the next week, the next month. And we've done that successfully, that migration to virtual. Now it's that migration back to opening up, which we've put out guidelines and all of that. But we're in this period of a little bit more now uncertainty. Are we going to have a second wave? What's going to happen with schools opening in the fall? And I think it's really critical for us to take a little bit of a breath here and re-energize ourselves and the franchisees, because this is a really hard situation, and we have to keep adapting until we sort of get to the end. And that can be that there can come some fatigue, but we're fighting that. And what I'm finding with our franchisees, they're so determined. They're small business people, and they reinvigorate us in a way when we talk to them, and they reinvigorate our internal teams. All that said, the reason we're doing this is because we have an absolute belief that there's going to be an unbelievable demand for our services. I believe that once virtual schools end throughout the summer, and parents take a breath and say, oh my goodness, what am I going to do to get my child ready for the next school year? Mm-hmm. Education and supplemental education, I think, has got to be on their mind and something that they're going to search for. Unfortunately, most kid activities have been canceled or have to go virtual this summer. The good news with us is we can do it virtually. We can do it in the center. Our camps are fun for the kids, and they learn at the same time, and we've adjusted them to take on large groups. We have franchisees who are doing virtual classes together. In other words, they may have only been able to get 10 kids, but another franchisee got 10 children to participate. So all of a sudden now you have a 20 person class that can be delivered virtually. It's that kind of ingenuity and aggressiveness that I'm seeing both with our people and with our franchisees. And we're absolutely convinced that the demand for our services is only going to grow, in particular here in the short term.
Yeah, I don't want to set a prediction here because I don't have a specific one, but I do feel the education world is going to be disrupted in some sense, and you and I have talked about this offline several times. It will be interesting what happens out of this. I mean, our school system here in Chicago is saying we're going to be virtual in the fall. With that comes opportunity, and at the end of the day, I think you solve a fairly big need there that could actually work really, really well in tandem with what schools are trying to accelerate, but don't have years of experience behind it. So.
Right. We're not trying to replace schools. Don't get me wrong, but we can add significant value for almost any child, whether you're a little bit behind or whether you want to get ahead. The way our programs are designed, because of the fact that they're so individualized, we can help every child.
John, awesome statements. Appreciate your enthusiasm around confidence. I'm sure anybody that's watching it can see it from you and obviously the franchisees that we've spoke with. Stay safe, and we look forward to seeing where the Sylvan story goes. Thanks for your time.
Same. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Cheryl.
Ron.
Okay. Talk.